All of this is for us.
Welcome to the JeffMan316 YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to do a review and recap of episode 5 of Wandavision. This episode is entitled, what's that? On a very special episode. And the synopsis goes, on a very special episode of Wandavision, Wanda and Vision deal with their changing and expanding family in more ways than one. In this episode, not only is it entitled a very special episode, but there's something special that happens at the end, and it'll go by very quick if you don't pay attention. Also, I hope this week does go by quick so that we can get into episode 6. But before we do that, we've got to go ahead and do the recap and review of episode 5. And before I start, go ahead and do me a favor and comment on this video, hit the thumbs up and like it. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And after you subscribe, hit the notification bell because you'll be the first to know before we post the recap and review video of episode 6. So let's dig into episode 5 of WandaVision. Alright, so everybody, welcome back to the JeffMan316 Customs YouTube channel. I really appreciate the support you guys have been giving me. And so in this episode, we're going to go ahead and dig into what would be episode 5 of WandaVision. So as I said in the intro, this one is entitled On a Very Special Episode. And the cool thing about it is, just like I've been mentioning all along, they continue with the way the storyline is progressing. They did the 50s, they did the 60s, they did the 70s. Then we had an episode that really didn't dig into Wanda's side of things and had more of the SWORD organization. But in this episode, they do a good job. They split it kind of right down the middle. You get what's going on in Westview from Wanda's perspective, or Vision's actually more in this episode. And then you also get it from the SWORD perspective on the outside world. So they also do exactly what I told you I wanted. They go ahead and they jump into the 80s. So that there's an 80s style to this episode. And if you look at the intro of it, it looks like it's similar to what Family Ties did with painting portraits and showing photos of them as children leading up to them as adults. And then it has like kind of like also like a Full House Family Matters vibe to the episode, which is kind of ironic if you consider that in real life the actress playing Wanda is the real life sister of the Olsen twins who played on Full House. So I'm going to read you the theme, the words to the theme song of the episode, because I think they do tie into the themes of this episode and what they're going to do moving forward. So let me go ahead and read those to you. It says, "You wander the world with a vision of what life could be, but then the years come and teach you to just wait and see. Forces may try to pull us apart, but nothing can faze me if you're in my heart. Crossing our fingers, singing a song. We're making it up as we go along." And so I think that last part is really important as far as what they're doing with these episodes. So let's just go ahead and dig into it a little bit and we'll kind of talk about those themes. But in this episode, like I said, you get both views of what's happening inside of Wanda's world and outside of Wanda's world. Things are changing rapidly, and as they view from the outside what's happening within, this episode they actually kind of tag the world as the Hex, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, when they did the opening credits to one of the previous episodes, you saw some hexagon symbols in there. So I'm wondering if that may lead to the tag, that what they're calling it, or whatever you want to call that. So the kind of the theme of what's running through the SWORD organization on the outside is that they think Wanda is maybe a little too powerful, and that she's controlling a lot of this stuff, and that she's got thousands of people trapped within Westview, and that they're labeling these people as like victims. And then if you look from the inside to see what's happening to Vision, they maybe think that he's kind of like a victim himself, because he didn't want to be brought back to life after the stone was ripped from his head. But that's exactly what Wanda does. So maybe in the bigger picture, people could consider that what's happening to Vision, that he's a victim as well. So one of the cool things that happens during this episode is you do find out how Wanda actually gets Vision's body. There's a post-credit scene that was deleted from one of the Marvel movies that I had read about, and they actually bring that in here into clips, and you see Wanda going into the facility to get Vision. And so that now becomes canon and part of the MCU, which I thought was like really amazing. It's one of the best parts of the episode. So they're looking at that from the outside, and then on the inside, one of the cool things that's happening is, to me, Vision is becoming more self-aware. He's starting to realize what's going on around him, and that he realizes that things aren't exactly the same between him and Wanda from the way they used to be. He notices that Wanda and the people around him, especially like Agnes, are manipulating the situations just like a TV show would. Anytime something comes up or somebody questions something or something's missing, Wanda either does something to distract him. Like in this episode, they talk about how the kids think it's Sunday, but Wanda says that it's a work day for Vision, and that she needed to get him out of the house, basically, even though it's a day he wouldn't normally work. So while there at work, Vision also, you see that he's starting to, I don't know if you want to call it become more powerful, but become self-aware of what he can do. And he actually touches one of his co-workers, I think it's Norm, and kind of brings him out of the mind control that he's under Wanda. And Norm actually starts freaking out and asks for help and starts panicking and wanting to know, well, how long has he been here and what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And then before things go off the rails, Vision puts him back. I'm kind of thinking he might have done that because he doesn't want Wanda to feel what he's doing and kind of understand that Vision has like become that self-aware. So back on the outside, Sword actually describes Wanda as a victimizer, and that as I just told you, Vision has seen that. They're starting to think, that Wanda, at least the head of the organization, is more of a bad guy, and that she's in control of this thing, and that she's becoming too powerful, and what is she going to do? So they want to try to stop her. Even though I've spoiled some of the episode, I won't ruin too much about it. But there is one thing that he does that he even goes against what Monica thinks they're going to do by sending the drone in. He actually attaches a weapon to it and tries to see, I think, whether they can do a surprise attack on Wanda. And this leads to one of the most powerful points of the moments of the episode, where Wanda actually stops what's going on in her bubble world of Westview, comes out, and then confronts Sword and tells them to basically back off and get the hell out of there and let her do what she needs to do in her world. So in the middle of all this, we also have one of our cool commercials in the middle, and this one is for speaking of victims, this is for a commercial that's called, I think it's Lagos or Lagos paper towels. And if you know, ends up being the name of the city that ended up having some people killed during the Civil War moments from Captain America Civil War, where Wanda accidentally is trying to do good and actually accidentally kill somebody. I think, was it 11 people she might have killed? But either way. So everybody's kind of fearing in this episode, that Wanda's becoming more powerful and they don't know what to do. And on the inside, Wanda is almost feeling like maybe that she's losing control. With that being said, once Vision confronts her and wants to understand what's going on, another kind of cool part of the episode is Wanda does one of those things where she tries to distract Vision and starts actually trying to end the show within the show, and it rolls credits over top of them arguing, which I thought was pretty cool, because I didn't know at first how long the episode had been going on. I was so enthralled in it that I didn't know if this was the ending, and it turned out not to be, because what happens at the end of that is they literally almost like power up on each other and get to the point where they're starting to argue so much, their powers coming to the top, to the surface, that something happens that even Wanda was out of her control, and a special mystery guest knocks on the door. And I'm not going to ruin that part, because like I said, even though I ruined a couple things with spoilers, you have to see it to believe it. So I will mention that in my question section of things that are still questioning me, but the ending is really cool. So this one is almost like a cliffhanger type thing, to where you want to know what they're going to do with the person that was knocking on the door and how that's going to go. So they've got me even more jazzed about seeing episode 6. And so I heard online where somebody said that we were past the midpoint of the series, but that would only be if it's only the original 9 episodes. But so I heard that there's a possibility they may do a special 10th episode, which means we're exactly in the middle. And I think they're in a perfect spot of where they need to be to advance this thing, because they've already revved it all the way up to the point to where it's almost like I can't wait for the next episode before it happens. So as we go, let's go ahead. I think there's still some very important questions that I have from this episode that haven't been answered. The big thing is, if Wanda stole Vision's dead body, how is he still alive? If he's becoming more self-aware, is he really Vision, the real Vision that we know? And is Wanda, if she's able to manipulate everything around it, why does she deny that to Vision by basically saying, well, I can't be in control of this whole world. How could I be in control of every living person here and make sure they go to work and go to doctor's appointments and all that? Maybe she isn't in control of everything. Maybe there's somebody bigger and badder in control of this, even though everybody thinks it's Wanda. So that's a major question there. Is there somebody, a master, that's controlling this whole situation above and beyond Wanda? One of the other things I thought as they're talking to Monica throughout this episode, Monica Rambeau, is I'm wondering, why does she get agitated every time somebody around her mentions Captain Marvel? That seems kind of weird. You know, she was a child during the Captain Marvel movie, and maybe that'll lead into something like what's going to happen in the Captain Marvel 2 movie. Also, as they're worried because Monica got blasted out of the Westview world, and they're doing all kinds of doctor's tests on her. They can't get any test results. Like her brain scan come up with no results. Her blood work isn't working. They can't get any readings on her now that she's exited out of that world. So did she absorb some powers? Is it Wanda trying to block them from finding out what's going on? That's a big question for me. And then another one that I've read a lot online is Wanda is still just, Wanda Maximoff. When is she actually, or is she ever going to become this actual Scarlet Witch character that we know from the comics? It was one cool scene in there where they actually make reference to that.
Back up, Jimmy. Does Maximoff have an alias?
No, sir.
So, and then one of the last things is, who is Agnes? Like, why is she there to progress the story along like she is? And how much does she know? Because it's like she wanted to know from Wanda whether she wanted her to change something so the Vision wouldn't keep asking questions about their children. Because in this episode, every time something happens, either Wanda or Agnes does something like Vision says to advance the story. Who is her husband, Ralph, that she keeps talking about? And is he going to end up being the big bad that I mentioned earlier? And so finally, I don't want to spoil the true ending, but I will go back and say this as a question. Is this the link from the Fox Marvel movies to the MCU Marvel movies that we've been waiting for? Is that ending finally going to give us that link that we've all been hoping for? I sure hope it does, because if it is, it's going to open up a whole new world of all those characters that might possibly come from the Fox. And even if it's a multiverse type scenario, I'm all for it. So that's my recap and kind of review of the latest episode 5 of WandaVision. What did you think of the episode? I think, like I said, they're revving it up to the point where I can't wait for the next one. So can you drop some comments below? Let me know what you thought. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And then while you're subscribing, go ahead and hit the notification bell, because you'll be the first to know when I post the recap and review of episode 6. So with that being said, let's get out of here today. And so if you're going to find out the answers to all these questions that I asked, you'll have to watch the next episode and then come back and let's check out and talk about episode 6 next week. So until next week, I'll join you here. Same WandaVision time, same YouTube channel. This is JeffMan316, your pop culture reporter, signing out, saying you guys be safe out there.